Omagyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunatha Vitamtam Sujeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all to our Gita classes. Just before I begin speaking, just one small admin request. Shubha Mataji, if you can drop the Zoom link on the Thursday group.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Because, you know, many of the people have not been able to join here. So
okay.
I don't know. Okay?
Yeah, I will do that. Prabhuji. Yeah.
And going forward, drop the Zoom link on that group also, just so that, you know, in case people are not here, they are also getting the link there.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you all very much for joining in. You know, I have been waiting for this day for the last 1 month or so, because I have been telling you all of you that who are for the part of the Tuesday batch, that there's a batch joining in, and I kind of delayed continuing the 7th chapter because there are many people who are going to be joining in. So now the 2 batches are merged together, and we will continue the discussion on Gita chapter wise going forward from here. So because we lost a lot of, not lost exactly, we did have Gita classes regularly, but we just lost the momentum in terms of the 7th chapter of Gita. So I thought it would be apt to summarize the 7th chapter today, and then go forward from you know, from where we left off sequentially and very deeply, basically. So that's the plan going forward. So I thought I will do a quick summarization of the 7th chapter for the benefit of everyone who is here, both the new and the old batch. So for all those who are joining in from the new batch, we would like to welcome all of you to the Tuesday classes. This has been a class that has been going on for the last 2 years now, I would say. And I've done almost close to about 79 sessions with these people. So if any of you are interested in hearing all those older classes, we will give all of you access to the entire folder of all the chapters, all the classes, you know, and you can hear it at your pace, at your speed, and, you know, in whatever way you like it. And at the same time, continue attending the Gita classes so that you are getting the benefit of the future classes from now onwards. Okay. So now we're going to do a quick summarization of the 7th chapter of the Gita. The 7th chapter of the Gita is called as Knowledge of the Absolute. So this chapter is a very unique and a very beautiful chapter of the Gita. And this chapter actually gives us a lot of tools on how we can understand the absolute truth. The Supreme Lord is also called as absolute truth. So for us to be able to understand the Supreme Lord, we need some tools and we need some ways of understanding it. So this chapter has the acronym HEAD, HEAD, because to understand anything, you need your head, right? You need your intelligence. So therefore, this chapter is acronymed as HEAD. And the first part of this chapter is about hearing. The first 3 verses of this chapter talk about the process of hearing. So when we talk about the process of hearing, there are 2 types of paths. A lot of people in this world, when they want to hear about any subject, how do you understand and how do you hear about any subject? How do you understand any subject? Like say, for example, this idea of, has anyone seen Mahatma Gandhi? So now there are 2 ways to understand Gandhiji, or for that matter, any other thing in this world. The first path is called as Aroha Pantha. So Aroha Pantha is called as as the ascending path of understanding. Ascending path means what? Ascending path means I put an effort to understand something with my intelligence and by my research. Like say, for example, I go around India finding anything that is connected with Gandhi. That is called Aroha Path, the ascending path. That means I practically go to every place where Mahatma Gandhi potentially could have some connection. And I ask people, conduct interviews, talk to people, study archaeology, study all the artifacts of Gandhi. And over a period of so many years, after extensive research, I come to an understanding of who Gandhi is as a person. And what is Gandhian thought process. That is called as Aroha Pantha. The problem with Aroha Pantha is that our brain has limitations and our abilities have limitations. Therefore, there is another path that is prescribed called as Avaroha Pantha. The Avaroha Pantha is a path which is called as a descending path. The word Avaroha means descending path of knowledge. What is the descending path of knowledge? I ask someone who has some connection with Gandhi, please tell me something about Gandhi. And whatever that person says is much better than all the research that I can do in many, many years. Isn't it? As simple as that. Especially if that person has done unlimited research and studied from authorities, that person becomes an authority. Similarly, if you want to understand about God, we need to use these 2 ways of understanding knowledge about God. One is Aroha Pantha. That means I do my research. There are many, many people in the world today, especially in the land of India, who claim to be doing research on God themselves. How much they are successful, I don't know, but they think they know a lot. This process is called Aroha Pantha. It's an ascending process. It's not a very highly recommended process for understanding anything about God. The path that is recommended to understand about God is known as Avaroha Pantha. It's a descending process. That means you hear about God from your guru, from your teacher. And that teacher hears about God from his teacher. And that teacher hears about God from his teacher. It goes on in a disciplic succession. That path, which is called a descending path. And therefore, when you hear from the right authorities, it has a lot of weight. And that is the path that is recommended in the Gita. So, based on the fact that we have gained knowledge about God, or when we are following the ascending path, or rather the descending path of knowledge. But when somebody says, I have knowledge about God, what does it mean? It means 3 things. The first thing is MSc. MSc means M stands for matter, S stands for spirit, C stands for controller. So if somebody says, I have knowledge about God, he should have knowledge about these 3 things: matter, spirit, and controller of the 2. So if somebody has understanding of these 3 things, MSc, that person is knowledgeable. This is the first level of knowledge about. What is matter? Matter is everything material. It is matter. Biology, geography, zoology, botany, name all the fields which are connected with matter. It's all fall under one word, one letter, M. S stands for spirit. Everything that is connected with the Atma, science of the soul, is called S. And C stands for controller of both. Who is the controller of matter and spirit? God. And when you have knowledge of all these three things, you can say you are knowledgeable. The second level of knowledge is when you understand that God has three features. What are the three features of God? The three features of God is known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavad. Brahman means the light emitting from God is known as Brahman. It is the effulgence of God. The second is Paramatma, is God who is within our hearts. Each one of us have an element of God inside our heart, and that is known as Paramatma. And the third aspect of God is Bhagavad. Bhagavan means the complete supreme personality of Godhead. It's known as Bhagavan. So this is the second aspect. So the first level of knowledge is MSC, matter, spirit, and controller. Second level of knowledge is understanding of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Third level of knowledge is the understanding that God is great and He's sweet. See, everyone knows that God is great, but very, very less people know that God is also sweet. Just like a very successful businessman is great in the organization while he's doing his business, but at home, he is not great, he's sweet, isn't it? So now, if you look at, if this guy tries to act great at home also, then he's in big trouble. At home, your greatness is not important, your sweetness is important. The problem is some people try to act great at home also. And those are the people that have very complicated relationships and very difficult time at home, isn't it? So God similarly has two aspects to him, his greatness and his sweetness. The greatness of God is exhibited in the Vaikuntha planets, and the sweetness of God is exhibited in Vrindavan. The greatness of God is, you can understand the greatness of God by understanding creation, but you understand the sweetness of God by understanding his relationship with his devotees. The greatness is called Siddhanta, and the sweetness is called Rasa. And when you understand both Siddhanta and Rasa, that's when you understand God completely. What is Siddhanta? Siddhanta is philosophy. And what is Rasa? Rasa is the sweetness that manifests out of philosophy. That's called Rasa. That is the third level of understanding, or third level of knowledge about God. And finally, the fourth level of knowledge, understanding or gaining knowledge about God is the understanding that there is something known as Jnana, and then there is something known as Vijnana. Jnana means theory, and Vijnana means practical. So, knowledge of God has to be Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. What is the meaning of Jnana Vijnana Sahitam? It means when you understand about God, don't just understand him theoretically. We have to learn to experience him practically also. That is why many people who are jnanis, who are philosophically trying to understand God, they do not have any experience of a reciprocation from God. And therefore, their spiritual life is very dry. So when you do not have a reciprocation with God, your spiritual life becomes very dry and very mechanical, and it's not very inspiring. But when you have both experience of the theoretical understanding of God and also the practical understanding of God, then life becomes very sweet. And therefore, whatever we understand of the Gita, of the Bhagavatam, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, all our scriptures, it has to be understood both in Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana means you understand the theory part of it. But Vijnana means learn how to apply it in your life. What is the point in theoretically understanding scriptures without being able to apply it in your life? And therefore, that combination of theory and practical is known as Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. These are the 4 levels of knowledge about God. So, such knowledge is very rare. Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, in this chapter, the 3rd verse, he says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashchid yatate siddhaye yattam api siddhanam kashchid mam veti tattvataha. He says, 1 out of thousands of men may endeavor for perfection. Out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Manushyanam sahasreshu, out of thousands of men, kashchid yatati siddhaye, one may endeavor for perfection. And yatatam api siddhanam, or out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So that means the process of bhakti, the process of knowing God, the process of perfecting your life is very, very rare. I must congratulate all of you all that you all have embarked on a path of trying to perfect your life. Just because you are listening to lectures doesn't mean you'll perfect your life. These lectures will give you tools which you can apply in your life so that by practicing these tools, by practicing the process, you can be on the path of perfection. And someday you can perfect your life. But even to be on the path of perfection itself is so rare. Therefore, Krishna is saying, out of thousands, one will come. So we are very, very fortunate and we are very, very happy to have so many of you consistently attending these classes and hopefully practicing whatever you're learning from these classes in your personal life, and especially the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, which will help you attain the path of perfection. So this is essentially what we just discussed so far. Now we go to the second part of this chapter, which talks about envision God. This chapter, this particular section of this chapter is a beautiful section. It's one of the very beautiful sections of the Gita, in which Krishna is personally giving us some ideas how you can experience him on a daily basis. We all want to experience God. The question is, how? How do you experience God? So there are many people in this world who keep asking us this question, can you show me God? The understanding is, there are many things in this world that can't be seen. But if you want to see it, you need to understand the effect it is called. Like say, for example, can somebody see electricity? You can't see electricity. But if you see the fan rotating, you understand there is electricity. Because without the electricity, you can't see the fan rotating. Suppose somebody sees an arrow flying, immediately you understand there is somebody who's shooting that arrow. Otherwise, the arrow won't fly. If you see there are puppets that are dancing, you immediately understand that there is a puppeteer who's controlling the puppets. Otherwise, the puppets won't dance. Similarly, Krishna is telling us something very profound through a verse in this chapter. This is verse number 7 of this chapter. Krishna says, Mata parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mayi sarvam idam protan sutre mani gana iva. What does this verse mean? So he gives an example. He says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung upon a thread. Just like if you take a pearl necklace, which is made up of hundreds of pearls, usually you cannot see the thread which is running through all the pearls. But any intelligent person understands without the thread, the pearls will not stay together, isn't it? Similarly, this entire world, everything in this world is like such amazing things in this world, isn't it? Such beautiful things in this world. But when you see all the beautiful things in this world, do not forget to see the thread that is holding all the beautiful things together. And that's Krishna. So Krishna is telling us, look for the thread that is holding all beautiful things together. That's me. And then Krishna gives us almost 15 examples of how you can see Krishna in this world. And that is the next few parts of this particular chapter. So Krishna first talks about a very beautiful concept, which is Bhumi apo anlo vayu kam mano buddhi evacha. So he says all the material elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and not just the material elements, but also subtle elements like the mind, intelligence, and the false ego. All of this, Krishna says, are manifestations of my energy. So he says, Bhinna Prakriti Astada. That means these are separated energies of mind. And then Krishna talks about another level of energy in the next verse, where he talks about the spirit, the Atma, being his, what do you call it? So Bhinna Prakriti means separated energy, and Atma is a spiritual energy, which is his internal energy. So there are two types of energy that Krishna is speaking about: the external energy, which is material in nature, and then there is an internal energy, which is spiritual in nature. So he talks about all these energies being a part of him. And then once he introduces us to these two energies, he starts giving examples of how you can see him everywhere. And he says, first thing Krishna says is, I am the taste of water. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. So now let us just look at this example of Krishna. What is the meaning of I am the taste of water? There is one Ekadasi we all do called Nirjal Ekadasi. It comes somewhere in June, July period. It's going to come very soon. And that is a day that is recommended that you should fast completely from food and water. That means for like a 24-hour period, no drinking, no eating, nothing. Just focusing on Krishna. So Nirjala Ekadasi is a very highly recommended Ekadasi, and I would highly recommend all of you to also perform Nirjala Ekadasi if possible. Of course, if your health permits and medically you are fit. But something interesting happens on Nirjala Ekadasi day. Thank you, Himaji, for posting the date of 31st May. I will reconfirm that and post also. But Nirjala Ekadasi day is a very interesting day because it teaches us something beautiful. The next morning, after you perform fast for 24 hours, no drinking water, no eating, nothing. Next day morning, amazing things happen. Of course, I will not tell you what happens. You had experienced it yourself. But one of the things that happens is you get intense hankering for water. That time, when you are about to break your fast, and you are really waiting for one drop of water to enter your mouth, if somebody comes and gives you mango juice, if somebody comes and gives you milk, if somebody comes and gives you so many pizzas and burgers and anything else, nothing matters. At that time, the only thing that you look for is one glass of water. Isn't it? I mean, for all those who have experienced it, will reconfirm this. But for those who have not, you have to personally go through an experience to reconfirm this. But that day, that morning, you can actually experience Krishna in water. The first little drop of water that goes in your mouth, you see, wow. It almost feels like life has come back. And I'm sure all of us have a little experiences of being very thirsty and very, very parched. And then someone gives us a little water. That's Krishna. So when you want to experience Krishna, there are many material ways in which you can experience Krishna. And Krishna is giving us examples also which are material in nature. He is giving us an example of how he is the essence of everything. So he says, I am the taste of water. And then Krishna, he says, I am the light of the sun. So we always take the sun for granted, isn't it? We take the sun for granted. In the morning, when you go for a morning walk, when you see the sun rise, what an experience it is, isn't it? I'm sure, I mean, if you have seen the sun rising for 75 years also, you still see the sun rise, you say, wow, what an experience it is. That's Krishna. That is God. So whenever you come across the rising sun, you have to remember the light of the sun is Krishna. And then when you see the full moon, what an experience it is. No matter how many full moons you've seen in your life, but when you see a full moon, it's an experience that can't be spoken in words. That is Krishna. And then Krishna says, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. He says, of all the Vedas, the Omkar is me. Every morning, it is highly recommended that we chant the Om. And somebody was just teaching me recently how one must chant the Om. As soon as you have your bath, before you do anything else, just sit, close your eyes, and from the deepest part of your stomach, right from within your stomach, chant the Om. Om. Chant the Om 16 times. And in a matter of few days, your life will change. That's the power the Omkar has. And that's Krishna. So when you chant the Omkar, you actually can experience Krishna. And he says, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. This is the essence of all the Vedas. And then Krishna says, I am the sound and ether. If you hear any kind of sound, that's Krishna. Without Krishna, without that ether, you can't experience sound. And especially spiritual sound causes liberation. When you hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra being chanted, the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When you hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra being chanted, the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that's Krishna. It is not something that you can compare with anything else in this world. And only when you experience it powerfully, you understand what it is. Krishna says, I am the ability in man. What is the meaning of ability in man? It means Krishna is trying to say that anything that a human being does, that is Krishna. All of us have so many talents, isn't it? Somebody could be a surgeon, and that person's hands are so steady that he can operate through a very complicated part of the human body, and still the hand is steady. That's Krishna. That ability that you have is God. Somebody might speak, and every word that person speaks straight penetrates the heart and inspires you so much. That ability is Krishna. Somebody can sing beautifully, and the way that person sings, it just melts the heart. That ability is Krishna. So every single ability you can think of, including Ronaldo kicking the football and so many goals, or Sachin Tendulkar hitting the ball out of the fields, every ability that man has is Krishna. And when you can see Krishna in all our abilities, that's spirituality. Krishna is a fragrance of the earth. I was yesterday afternoon, I was in GEV and Govardhan Eco Village. And I was just walking through the Goshala. Early in the morning, just walking through the Goshala. And the moment I walked through the Goshala, the smell of cow dung, the smell of cow urine, the smell of the wet mud, the smell of the cows, I was amazed. I said, wow, what a fragrance this is. What a smell this is, isn't it? And every part of this world has a very special fragrance. Forget other people. Every human being has a special fragrance. No two human beings' fragrances are same. Who creates these fragrances? That fragrance is Krishna. So whenever you experience a fragrance that is pleasant, that is very uplifting, remember that fragrance is Krishna. Krishna says, I am the heat and fire. Cooking needs fire, isn't it? Without fire, we will not survive. We need fire for so many reasons. Forget cooking fire outside. There is fire inside our stomach. It's called the fire of digestion. It's called Jatar Agni. If your fire of digestion is weak, your uploading is easy, but downloading will become very hard. So there are a lot of people who have upset Krishna in that form, and they have such complicated issues in digestion, simply because they do not see Krishna in the fire. When we see Krishna in fire, we actually become so grateful to Krishna. For he is the one, our ability to digest food comes from Krishna only. Life of all that lives, Krishna says, I am the life of all that lives. Without God, there is no life. I'll tell you a story, and this is a real story. One of my friends, very close friend of mine, and I know this boy from when he was in his college. This boy, he got married, and his wife was like 7 or 8 months pregnant. And the doctors, they gave them a shocking news that this child is going to be born with a lot of defects, a lot of problems. The doctors told their parents that it is better to abort, because this child is going to be very difficult and you are going to have a lot of trouble. This child is practically being in the hospital all the time. The parents are shocked. They called me. They were like crying. They were totally bewildered, totally shocked. And they didn't know what to do, because they felt, this child, we can't abort the child. Taking away life is not in our hands. It should not be done by us. But at the same time, the doctors are giving them such warnings. They, after a lot of discussions, they decided we'll go ahead with the pregnancy. And they said, whatever happens, we will accept it as Krishna's will. We will accept it as God's will. And we'll deal with it. They were very clear of the consequences. The doctors gave them a lot of warning. They said, nothing doing, we're going ahead. The baby was born. Absolutely normal. Everything is fine. Nothing at all went wrong. Imagine. So the point is, we have to understand, without God's sanction, there is no life. Matter without soul doesn't exist. Both come from Him only. So when we understand that, God has, so every form of life in this world is Krishna. We respect every form of life in this world. When we think that some form is, not Krishna and some form is Krishna, we tend to respect selectively. But when we understand that every form of life in this world is Krishna, we really respect every form of life in this world. The next quality of, where we can experience Krishna, he says, I am the penance of ascetics. So when we see in this world, anyone doing any kind of austerity, you should know it is Krishna. Nobody in this world can do any kind of austerity without Krishna's sanction, without Krishna's help, without Krishna's, blessings. For some of us who are doing some kind of little austerities in our lives, of course, for those who are staying in Bombay, traveling in local train itself is austerity. Somebody can experience Krishna just by traveling in local train. Why? That penance is Krishna, But there are many other types of austerity. Like if you go to the Himalayas, I remember I was once in the Himalayas and I was at Badrinath. And so we were walking towards the Nilakant Mountains. As we were walking towards the Nilakant Mountains, I saw something amazing. I can never forget that scene, So this is my first travel to Badrinath. I was like 25 or something like that, 24, 25 years old. And I was totally inexperienced in going to the Himalayas, And I went to the group of devotees, and the day I reached Badrinath, I fell sick. Solid fever, and I was least prepared also. I had one sweater with me. Imagine, I went to Badrinath with one sweater, and I felt sick. The room that I was staying didn't have hot water. I was like literally in a great agony. And then, of course, somehow I decked up. I bought a few sweaters and this and that. And then we went to for a trek to the Nilkanda Mountains, towards the Nilkanda Mountains. I still remember that scene right in front of my eyes. If I can visualize it. As we were climbing up the mountain, I was wearing 3 layers of sweater, and I was wearing thermal, I was wearing socks, I was wearing monkey cap, I was wearing shawl and whatnot, and still I was shivering, by the way. And I saw on that mountain, there was one sage sitting there, one sadhu. And this man was not wearing any clothes on his body. Nothing. One little copy below. That's all. Sitting on the mountain, completely open air. And here, 3 sweaters, 4 sweaters, I was shivering. And when I saw this man, my mouth fell open. Because I couldn't believe that someone could live like this. That's when I remember this verse of the Gita. Krishna is saying, I am the penance of the ascetics. Anyone who's doing any kind of austerity, it is Krishna. When we look at these people doing this kind of austerity, we have to understand this is Krishna. And that is the way we develop admiration towards these great personalities. That is the way we develop admiration towards anyone who does these kind of austerity. It's not easy to do it. Krishna says, I am the original seed of all existence. So it says, Ekam Dvitiyo Nasti. Eko Bahusham. So that means before him there was nothing. And from him, everything manifests. So, if there are many people who say, if God created everything, who created God? This is the answer. He is the origin of everything. There is no one that has created him. Before him, nothing existed. So, he is the original. So, that means, look at it from this point of view. Anything original in this world is Krishna. Somebody says, I made an original painting. What you're talking about? There is nothing called original painting. That original painting also is Krishna only. So he says, I have written original, story. What are you talking about? Your original story idea also comes from Krishna only. So anything that is original in this world is Krishna. And if you find anyone who is genuinely creating something powerful, that is Krishna. And you should see Krishna in it. And that is how we will be able to appreciate the originality. Because anything that has a sense of originality also has a connection with Krishna. And then Krishna says, I am the intelligent of the intelligence. Sorry, I'm the intelligence of the intelligent. So which means that anyone who has any sort of intelligence, Beethoven, Mozart, Shakuntala Devi, any of these personalities who have any kind of intelligence that they exhibit in this world, remember, that intelligence is Krishna. So when you look at the intelligence of these people, don't be shocked. Because Krishna is so intelligent. Brahma, who was the original creator of this world, Lord Brahma, imagine how intelligent he will be, When he met Krishna, at one point, he tested Krishna a lot. After testing Krishna, Brahma understood that Krishna is something else. Then Brahma came to a very interesting conclusion. And he said, my dear Lord, I have understood one thing, that I understand nothing. The day you come to this conclusion, that day you are really intelligent. Till that day, you are semi-intelligent, basically. Because you think you're figuring out a lot of things, So the day you come to this conclusion that I have nothing, that is the day you actually have understood Krishna. Because whatever intelligence we have in this world is a small manifestation of Krishna's intelligence. Whatever abilities we have to understand in this world is a small manifestation of Krishna's abilities. And then Krishna says, I am the prowess of the powerful. Balam balavatam chaham. I am the power, I am the strength of the powerful person. So I'm sure, so there's a difference between powerful and strong. So in fact, the next verse, the next thing Krishna is going to talk about strength. So what is the difference between power and strength? In this case, power specifically is talking about influence. So if anyone has ability to influence anybody else, you should understand that person is Krishna. That person has an element of Krishna in him or her. So now you might say, how come people on TikTok have Krishna in them? What to do? That's a reality. So if they have any kind of influence, you should know there is Krishna in them. Even if they're doing the most mundane thing in this world, the most stupid, the most vulgar thing in this world, we have to learn to see Krishna. Because influence, the ability to influence others, cannot come from anybody else except Krishna. Krishna is known as all attractive. The word Krishna means all attractive. So he can attract everyone's heart. So if somebody has the ability to attract a little bit, you should know there's a little bit of Krishna in that person. So obviously, now we're not saying that you should attract in wrong ways. But recognizing Krishna in everyone is important. So if you're seeing somebody very powerfully influencing some people, it's okay. They're maybe using that influence in the wrong way, but they have some element of Krishna in them. So even in the worst of the worst people, we can see Krishna. That's the point. And then Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong. Anyone who shows any kind of strength, that is Krishna. Arjun was so powerful in the Mahabharata war. He was a war hero of the Mahabharata war, isn't it? But it is explained, Krishna left this planet 36 years after the Mahabharata war. So when Krishna left the planet 36 years after the Mahabharata war, Arjun went to Dwarka. And there was a fratricidal war over there. So much was happening in Dwarka, so much chaos. So all the wives of Krishna, the 16,000 wives of Krishna, Arjun wanted to bring them to Hastinapur, to a safe place. So Arjun went to Dwarka and he told all the wives of Krishna, come with me, I'll bring you to a safe place. And Arjun took all the wives of Krishna on his way to Dwarka. And he was attacked by a group of dacoits. Now Arjun, he has fought with, people like Drona and Bhishma and, Lord Shiva and, Indra and all that kind of people. And he has fought with all of them. And here is a group of dacoits. Now what can a group of dacoits do? How much can they be powerful? And the most amazing thing the Bhagavatam speaks about is Arjun lost to them. His Gandiva bow, which was so powerful, was useless on that day. And he couldn't protect the wives of Krishna from these dacoits. You might say, what is this? How come the wives of Krishna were taken away by dacoits? The understanding that Acharyas give is that those dacoits were Krishna only. And Krishna wanted to show us through Arjun a very important lesson in life. The moment Krishna walks away from your life, you are nothing. The moment Krishna walks away from your life, you are nothing. So you may be the most influential and most powerful person like Arjun. But the day Krishna walks away from your life, your strength is nothing. And it is true for all of us. It is very, very true for all of us. And we may be so proud thinking that, I'm so strong, I'm so intelligent, I'm so powerful, I'm so influential and this and that. It's simply because Krishna is there in you. The day Krishna decides to walk out of your life, you will be nothing. And that recognition is Krishna. Recognition of this fact is recognition of Krishna in your life. And finally, Krishna says, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. He says, I am relationship is not against dharma. So Krishna is speaking about something as mundane as relationships. Every one of us have relationships in this world, isn't it? But how can you see Krishna in those relationships? Krishna is saying, when you keep God in the center and you have relationships in this world, that relationship is me. So if between human beings who have relationship with each other, if you can keep God in the center and then have those relationships, those all relationships are centered around God. And those relationships are Krishna. So look at these most amazing 15 ways in which we can see God in our lives. So we are all trying to see God, but we don't know how to see God. And look at the most simple and most mundane ways in which Krishna is giving us examples of how we can see God. And when we look at these beautiful, seemingly mundane examples, seemingly, material examples, we can actually feel Krishna's presence in our lives. And we can actually see Krishna's intervention in our lives. Therefore, I always tell people, don't try to look for Krishna in big things. Look for Krishna in small things in your life. You'll find Krishna in plenty. You'll find Krishna manifesting in ways that you can't even imagine. And I'm sure that the more we start looking for Krishna in small things, you'll be able to see Krishna more and more and more. There is a very beautiful verse in the Gita. It says, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvatra mai pashyati. Krishna says in this verse, he says, Yomam pashyati sarvatra means, Mam pashyati. Pashyati means see. Sarvatra means in everything. Sarvatra mai pashyati. So one is seeing Krishna in everything, and second is seeing everything in Krishna. Try to understand the difference between the two. Seeing Krishna in everything and seeing everything in Krishna. Which is easier? Seeing everything in Krishna is easier. But seeing Krishna in everything is very difficult. So a good devotee is someone who not only sees everything in Krishna, but actually sees Krishna in everything. Let me give you an example. Suppose you go to a temple and you see the deity of Krishna. Beautiful form of Krishna. What do you think? Here is God, Jagannath, He is the Supreme Lord. Everything is in Him. That means the entire creation rests in Him. And when we look at the form of Krishna like that, it is very easy to worship that form of Krishna. The Acharyas explained, this is Kanishta mindset. So what is the meaning of Kanishta Adhikari? Kanishta means a very low level of spiritual life. You might say, what is this? You're seeing Krishna in the deities, low level of spiritual life? Yes, it is the lowest level of spiritual life. The higher than that is you see Krishna everywhere. And that's so difficult. How do you see Krishna in your wife? And especially when she is yelling at you, How do you see Krishna in your husband, who is so indifferent, who doesn't care for you, who is so insensitive? How do you see Krishna in a child who is doing potty all over the place? How do you see Krishna in a dog that just doesn't obey your orders? How do you see Krishna in a bird that has, passed stool on your head and walked away? How do you see Krishna in a boss that is so arrogant and insensitive? How do you see Krishna in food that doesn't taste good? So there are so many places in this world where we can't see Krishna. But a good devotee is someone, an advanced devotee is someone who can see Krishna even in those places. How do you see Krishna when you have just lost a huge amount of money? How do you see Krishna in the middle of a crisis, a health crisis, when you have suddenly been declared that you have cancer? How do you see Krishna in someone who has cheated you and let you down? So there are places that you can't see Krishna easily. But as you advance in your spiritual life, you will learn to see Krishna everywhere and in everything and in everyone. That's what this chapter is about. So Krishna is giving us a little training on how you can see him everywhere if you want. Now, of course, these are 15 things that Krishna has mentioned where you can see him. But do you think that that's the only 15 items where Krishna can be seen? Obviously not. This list is just for you to consider. This list is just for you to have a sample of what you think. These are places where we might not even consider God exists. But if Krishna is saying, I am in all these places, that means he is really seriously talking about it. So that inspires us to go on our search for Krishna. That inspires us to go on our search for Krishna, seeing Krishna in every situation of your life, in every person in your life, and in everything in your life. That exploration is our exploration. And when we look for Krishna everywhere, you'll find him everywhere. And when you think Krishna doesn't exist anywhere, you will not find him anywhere. He says, Ye yatham mam prapadyante tam tateva bhajamyaham. I will manifest to you according to the way in which you reciprocated. So if we are seriously eager about searching for Krishna everywhere, we will find him every single place. So let us try to practice spiritual life in such a way that we can advance from moving from seeing Krishna, seeing everything in Krishna, towards seeing Krishna in everything. And that way, we will slowly advance towards experiencing Krishna in everyone around us, in every situation around us. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Stop here. Any questions, comments, discussions, please? Anyone has any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask. Yes, Vijayaji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Prabhu, this is very silly question. I just wanted to ask you, you said in that 15 ways to see God everywhere, that a man who is even do some vulgar things, we have to see God in him. See, how can I understand that, Prabhu? How can I see God in that person?
Yeah. So, see, the point is, his action may be wrong. His action may be bad. His action may be dirty. But ultimately, he is a spirit soul that is lost from Krishna. So that spirit soul is never dirty.
Yeah.
That spirit soul is never contaminated. That spirit soul will never be given up by Krishna. No matter how many bad things he does. That's something that we have to look for. Like, for example, Srila Prabhupada, when he was preaching in the Western world, the kind of people that he was preaching to, they were absolutely obnoxious people. The dirtiest of the dirty people in the world. When Prabhupada would walk into his house in the Bowery Street, when he was living there in New York, on the doorway, there would be people who were drunk totally and unconscious, standing on the doorway. Prabhupada would have to pick them up and put them on the side and walk into his house. Imagine the kind of people that he was dealing with. And those are the people that are coming to his programs. Prabhupada had to, ask them, did you take drugs today when you came to the program? Did you drink today when you come to the program? Did you eat meat today when you go? Every single person has done all of it. The Prabhupada said, dirty guy, I don't want to preach to him. then what is the hope for all of us to be here? Isn't it? And some of the most purest sannyasis today were from that hippie culture in the past. So when we look at these people doing all bad things, today, it doesn't mean they'll do it again. They will do it forever. There is chance. There is a chance for even for such people, because Krishna is inside them all. That's where the hope is. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thanks.
Any other questions? I can see Ajay Chetan Prabhu has dropped a question. Out of thousands of persons, hardly one can know Krishna. Will this not discourage people from trying to know Krishna as the rate of success is low? So, yes, it might discourage people. But the point is that as we go further in the Gita, we'll find a particular section where Krishna is talking about what happens to those who are not able to perfect their lives. Krishna says that someone who is not able to perfect their life, they start from where they are. See, the good hope for all of us is that we are not the body, we are spirit, soul. And the soul is eternal. There are unlimited chances. There is unlimited hope for us. So today, if we are not able to perfect our life, we still have a chance in the future. So because the soul is eternal and the cycle is eternal, there is a lot of hope. And of course, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we know the laws, but we also come to know a lot of bylaws. And those bylaws are what are the hope for us. I'll give you a simple story that will help you understand a bylaw. I just shared the story a couple of weeks back in a class, but I'll share the story. It's a beautiful story. There is a temple in India, which is known as Varadaraj, Kanchipuram. And there was an acharya who was asked by a devotee a question. This devotee asked this acharya a question. He asked him, what is the best time to go and see the Lord, have darshan of the Lord? This acharya gave a fantastic answer. He said, the best time to go to have darshan of the Lord is Mangalarti at 5 o'clock in the morning. So this devotee asked the acharya, why do you say that? The acharya gave a very interesting answer. He said, there is one small incident that happens at that time in the temple, because of which you should take darshan at that time only. What is it? What is the incident this devotee asked? So the acharya said, see, all of us, after a long day's work, we go and sleep on our beds, right? Comfortably we sleep. So the Supreme Lord, he spends full day standing, giving darshan to the devotees. And he does a lot of hard work. And in the night, when he's exhausted, he goes to the room of his wife. So here, Varadaraj, his consort is known as Perundevi Tayar. He goes to her room in the night. And he goes to her room and he sleeps on her arms. So now, the Tayar, the goddess, she's wearing bangles on her hands, right? There's a lot of bangles on her hands. So if you're putting your arm like this on somebody's hand and the bangles are there in the hand, golden bangles, what happens? On the neck of the Lord, these markings are there of bangles, right? So in the morning when you go for darshan at 5 o'clock in the morning, the Lord is standing there to give darshan, but he's a little embarrassed also. Why is he a little embarrassed? Because the markings are visible. So the Lord, he says, anybody who goes for darshan at that point in time, the Lord's name is Varadaraj. Varadaraj means he's the king of boons. He gives boons like anything, So the Lord is telling his devotees, see, whatever you ask for, I'll give you. Just don't go and tell what you saw here to anybody else. So he's a little embarrassed. So he tells all his devotees, Morning, whatever you ask, I'll give you. But make sure you don't tell anybody else what you saw here. Before the Acharya says this is the right time to go. So the point is that though the process is difficult and it seems to be almost impossible for us to perfect our life, one in thousands of people. But because we have access to acharyas who know all the loopholes, in the process of Krishna consciousness, they know exactly what to tell us, what to recommend us so that we perfect our lives much easily. So I hope that answers your question, Ajay Chetan. Okay. Thank you all very much for enthusiastically participating in these classes. And I'm going to be trying my best to do as many live classes as possible, even if I'm traveling. So all of you, please try your best to keep your Tuesdays free so that we can all be together and attend these classes live. And I know there's a lot more energy when we're doing classes live than sharing recordings. So I will try my best. And I request all of you to earnestly try your best also, in spite of all your hectic schedules. Just one last announcement before we end. Tomorrow we are starting the Hanuman Chalisa course. If any of you all are interested in joining the Hanuman Chalisa course, or if you want to recommend any of your friends and relatives to join the Hanuman Chalisa course, please do share the details of the course with all of them, and then we can all encourage and inspire all of them to love Hanumanji. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.